25 million years ago, a new kind of creature emerged on Earth, the great apes. Among them lived one family with extraordinary abilities, the ancestors who, through the slow turning of evolution, would one day become us. From their lineage sprang new, more advanced species. They roamed far and wide, learning to hunt, to wield power, to craft tools, to feel love, and eventually to wage war. They contended with massive beasts, conquered continents, and adapted to every climate until, at last, they became Homo sapiens, modern humans. But when did our journey truly begin? Who was the first to walk the path toward humanity? And what exactly is that elusive quality that sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom? Thanks to groundbreaking scientific discoveries, we can now travel deep into the past to discover which ancestor first took the decisive step toward becoming human. Our story opens 25 million years ago, during a time of intense global warming. The vast Tethys Ocean was breaking apart, its waters closing in the Near East, while humid forests pushed northward from Africa. Our distant kin followed these forests, quickly spreading across the ancient world. They ruled the treetops. In dazzling variety, 100 different species, from Gigantopithecus to Ramapithecus to Civipithecus, stretching from Europe to modern-day China. This was the age of the planet of the apes. But which of these primates is truly our common ancestor? Fast forward to 13 million years ago, along what is now the Mediterranean coast of Spain. A lush, humid, tropical forest thrives here, and within it lives a remarkable acrobat Pierolapithecus. This great ape's unique abilities place him at the root of our family tree. But why? What makes him our great-grandfather? We are only just beginning to understand. Pierola, as we'll call him, spends most of his life in the trees, feasting on fruit. He's too heavy to stride across branches, so he hangs, but sometimes he stands on 2 feet. Contrary to what many believe, the ability to walk upright didn't first evolve on open ground. It began here, in the canopy. Bipedalism, it turns out, was not humanity's invention, but the apes'. This Pierola is a young male who has recently left his family. His task now is daunting: to be accepted by a new group. He spots one, but territory is sacred and intruders are rarely welcome. A young female and her infant keep their distance, wary of strangers. Higher up sits an older female, more approachable, while nearby looms a dominant alpha male. The alpha seems calm, but getting too close could mean death. The newcomer must first be noticed, a tense gamble. The young female catches his scent. She is the most beautiful Pierola he's ever seen. So far, so good, until the alpha intervenes. The threat is real, but for now, it's only intimidation. This first attempt ends in failure. Yet something surprising is happening. Among our ancestors, a new and rare quality was emerging: empathy. The ability to sense and understand another's feelings, and beyond that, sympathy, to be moved by them. The older female senses the young male's distress and becomes uneasy. She must act. She moves closer, curious. Empathy, after all, is what allows creatures to live in complex societies. But why does he need adoption in the first place? In Pierola society, females stay in their birth groups, while adolescent males are driven away. Survival depends on finding acceptance elsewhere. That night, the young male faces another problem. He's never built his own nest. Pierolas are unusual among mammals. They construct leafy beds high in the treetops, safe from predators and falls. But building one takes years of practice, and only mothers can teach the skill. He has always slept in his mother's nest. Now, without that protection, he risks sleeplessness and danger. Yet it's this very invention, the luxury of long, uninterrupted nights, that sharpened Pierolapithecus' mental abilities. Sleep allows the brain to sort, discard, and store information, preparing the mind for greater feats. Without it, humanity might never have existed. Morning comes, and the group descends to the forest floor in search of food. Pierolapithecus relish sweet fruit, but can digest a wide variety of fare. The young male seizes another chance to approach the older female. For Pierolapithecus, knowing what's edible and what's deadly is taught, not guessed. Mothers pass this vital knowledge to their young, the first flicker of culture. The young male offers the older female figs. She accepts, a good sign. Grooming follows a language of touch, far richer than words. But touching females can enrage the alpha. This time, the females band together to protect the newcomer. In Pierolapithecus society, power lies with them, not the males. Soon, the older female returns his caresses. And then something curious happens. Playful gestures, perhaps even the first spark of pleasure. To ease tension, Pierolapithecus laugh, a trait we humans inherited. Life here is abundant. Fresh water is everywhere. Fruit hangs in plenty, and predators lurk mostly on the forest floor. Still, vigilance is key. Pierolapithecus read the forest signs. A bird's cry, a rustle of leaves, danger, a tiger. Each threat has its own alarm call. When the danger passes, they return to the ground. But this golden age cannot last. Africa is drifting toward Europe. Tectonic forces building to transform the land and climate. The young male still hasn't won the alpha's approval. His chance comes when he demonstrates a skill unknown to this group. Fishing termites from their mound with a stick. The first tool and extension of the hand opens a world of possibilities. Impressed, the group draws near. When an infant is poisoned by eating the wrong plant, the young male recognizes the danger. He knows a cure wisdom from his birth group. Pierolapithecus, it seems, were herbalists, using plants to treat illness. This transfer of knowledge is no small thing. Societies that send their young away inadvertently spread ideas across groups, enriching all. The infant survives. The young female chooses him. The alpha resists. But in Pierolapithecus society, the female's will prevails. The newcomer is finally accepted. Then the earth itself begins to shift. A period of global cooling looms. Forests across Europe and Asia fragment. Great apes in Asia migrate south, giving rise to the ancestors of gibbons and orangutans. In Africa, the Strait of Gibraltar closes. The Mediterranean dries to a salty wasteland, and Pierolapithecus cross into greener lands south of the Sahara. There, they evolve into a new form, Sahelanthropus chadensis, known as Tumai, perhaps our common ancestor with modern chimpanzees. Tumai still sleeps in trees but spends much time on the ground, exploiting a varied diet. Tools multiply, each matched to a specific food. Females often lead in invention, practical instinct guiding their hands. Bipedalism becomes more refined, freeing arms to carry food and tools. Social life changes too. Among Tumai, males now dominate. The alpha maintains power not only through strength but also through politics, forging alliances, currying favor, neutralizing rivals. This male-driven hierarchy breeds endless rivalries, but also strategy and intrigue, the early roots of human politics. The group's territory now includes rivers and lakes, opening access to fish and shellfish. More strikingly, Tumai develops preference, a male and female choosing to spend time together, away from the group, building bonds through affection. From quick, impersonal mating, a new ritual emerges. Gazes held, faces kissed, bodies meeting face to face. Desire becomes more than instinct. It is tinged with emotion. But life on the ground is perilous. One day, an infant wanders from the bank and drowns. The young female mother refuses to abandon the body. This is something new, a shadow of grief, an awareness of death. Others gather around, forming the first funeral-like ritual. They are beginning to understand that life ends, and with it, something intangible is lost. Soon, they meet another group under a fig tree. The females drunk on overripe fruit. The alpha covets them, but they are claimed by another massive male. Then comes a dangerous idea to kill members of their own species, in an organized, premeditated way, to seize what they want. The first war. Victorious, the Alpha's group claims new land, fruit, and females. War, like so many other inventions, will remain with us. 5 million years ago, Africa began to dry. The lush forests of the Sahara withered, pushing Tumai's descendants toward a crossroads. Some turned to the way of the chimpanzees and gorillas, giving up bipedalism and mastering life on all fours. Others pressed on along the path toward humanity, spreading across Africa, especially in the east. Among them rose the great clan of Australopithecus afarensis, Abel, Africanus, Kenyanthropus, Anamensis, Gahi. Then, around 2 million years ago, a figure appeared in South Africa whose very bones blur the line between ape and human. Australopithecus sediba. Was he the last Australopith or the first true man? The question still hangs in the air. Sediba's world is one of drought. Though they spend more time on the ground, the trees remain their refuge from the predators that prowl the open plains. They never stray far from the safety of the branches. In the dry season, fruit vanishes, and the only food lies underground, roots and bulbs, hard to dig and harder still to chew. Hours are spent grinding tough fibers between aching jaws. A young male moves among the group, but he has no mate. The females belong to the alpha in a harem arrangement, trading freedom for the protection of the strongest male. When predators leave a carcass behind, there's barely enough meat for the alpha and his favored mates. The rest go hungry. The old female, too frail to chew, survives only because the young male grinds food for her empathy in action once again. But scarcity pushes the species to the brink. Without change, they will die out. Sediba has one advantage: a sharper brain and a taste for experimentation. Somewhere in that brain, a revolutionary thought is forming. If meat won't come to them, they must go to it. The alpha's female dares to join the young male in venturing far beyond the trees, a perilous first. They find what they sought: a fresh carcass, rich with fat and marrow. Meat is rare and precious, dense with energy. They take the choicest parts, brain, tongue, eyes, entrails, and carry them back. The feast is like nothing the group has seen. It could be the key to survival, but the alpha sees only betrayal. The female is his property. She has defied him. His punishment is public and cruel. Still, the benefits of meat are immediate: easier digestion, lighter bodies, deeper rest. Over generations, it will fuel taller, leaner frames and ever more capable minds. Physical power alone will no longer decide survival. Cunning will matter more. The young male has another idea. If carcasses could be cut into smaller portions, they could be carried away to safety, ensuring food for days. He shapes sharp flakes from rock, razors for slicing flesh and cracking bone. Mastery will take thousands of years, but it begins here, and with tools comes teaching. Sadiba can now imagine, plan, and share visions of what could be. The young male rallies the group, describing the abundance they could find, the feasts they could secure. The alpha listens, calculating. He takes the idea for himself, leading them into dangerous territory. Sadiba are still prey. Without trees, they are vulnerable. They find themselves at a decisive moment. Return to the safety of the branches and risk slow starvation, or march into the unknown in search of a better life. The group splits. The strong cling to the old ways. The weaker, the dreamers, take the risk. They imagine open spaces, herds in abundance, food for all. Even the old female, her strength nearly spent, is driven by hope, and they find it a land of plenty. Those who stayed near the trees will endure for a time as paranthropus, the almost humans, but they will not survive the next great climate change. Lucy, the famous Australopithecus afarensis, was one of these almost humans, her line vanishing 1,000,000 years later. The ones who left the trees must invent new ways to live. The land is rich but dangerous, full of hidden traps, yet nothing will halt their advance. Some say this was the moment we became truly human, free to shape our own destiny. But perhaps something was still missing. After Sadiba comes a new species, unmatched in mobility, Homo erectus. 5 million years earlier, the collision of the Americas had birthed the Gulf Stream, carrying warm waters north and plunging the Earth into the Ice Age. The Sahara's green plains dried, driving herbivores out of Africa, and Homo erectus followed. They crossed mountains, deserts, swamps, and forests, driven by the spirit of conquest inherited from their ancestors. In northern China, they became masters of survival. Built for endurance, they could run farther than any other creature. Their long legs and vertical posture, balanced by strong arms, their bodies cooled by sweat glands, and regulated by a remarkable heat control system in the brain. Unlike sprinters, they relied on stamina, tracking prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Among them, power was no longer just a male domain. The gap in size between the sexes had shrunk, and leadership now went to the cleverest. In one group, a female ruled through foresight, intelligence, and political skill. No longer scavengers, they competed with the top predators, armed with weapons and teamwork. But they remained tied to the migrations of their prey, building temporary shelters as they roamed. Each member had a role shaping stone, cutting meat, tanning hides, building shelters. Division of labor brought new pressures and conflicts. The leader's job was to keep balance, using food distribution to reward allies and secure loyalty. This was politics at a higher level. They clothed themselves in plants, hides, and bark, which brought new threats. Parasites now plagued their exposed skin. And while they no longer feared predators as their ancestors had, the world still held mysteries that could kill without warning. One of the greatest revelations came from disaster. A wildfire tore through the land, destroying their camp and scattering the herds. Amid the ashes lay the roasted carcass of an animal. Its flesh was tender, rich with flavor, easy to chew and digest. Even the bitter roots of the dry season became sweet when cooked, requiring far less energy to process. The effects were profound. Less energy spent on digestion meant more for the brain. Over time, Jaws would shrink, bodies would lighten, and minds would sharpen. Cooked food opened the door to complex thought, deeper memory, and an emerging sense of beauty, shapes, and colors now stirred emotion. But fire was fleeting. They had to learn to keep it. Another clan possessed this skill, while theirs excelled in tanning hides and making tools. The solution was not war, but trade, the first exchange of knowledge between human groups. From that moment, skills could spread rapidly across vast distances, accelerating progress everywhere. With warmth, light, and safety from insects and predators, fire transformed life. It hardened spear tips, cured meat, and even seemed to heal ailments. But perhaps its greatest gift was to language. Subtle changes in the throat and the growth of the left brain made speech more precise. They could now recall the past, imagine the future, and tell stories, weaving memory, identity, and meaning into the fabric of their lives. The storyteller became a vital figure, keeper of the group's history, binding them together with shared tales of who they were and where they had come from. Perhaps, in the end, it is the ability to tell our own story that makes us human. Homo erectus spread to every corner of the old world, adapting to climates from the tropical to the glacial. In far China, they became the towering Peking man. In Indonesia, Solo Man. On the island of Flores, a tiny hobbit-like people, barely a meter tall. In Central Asia, they became Denisovans. In cold Europe, Neanderthals, massive and powerful, with pale skin to catch the weak Sunday. In Africa, they became Homo sapiens, the branch that would change everything. By the time Homo sapiens emerged in Africa, the world was already home to a diverse cast of human species. At least 6 walked the earth, each adapted to its environment, each with its own culture. But this varied humanity would not last. The arrival of Homo sapiens marked a turning point. Around 100,000 years ago, our species began reshaping the human story. Societies grew more complex. Invention quickened in every field. Art, skill, belief, magic, writing, medicine, and science all lay ahead, the flowering of imagination built on the knowledge gathered by countless ancestors. Pierola, Tomai, Sediba, Homo erectus. Each had added something essential: the drive to survive, the will to learn, the ability to imagine. Armed with this inheritance, Homo sapiens did what their forebears had done for millions of years. They set out. Leaving Africa, they spread across the globe, mastering navigation over oceans and across icebound continents. They reached Australia, crossed the Bering Strait into the Americas, and settled every habitable corner of the planet. Wherever they went, the other human species vanished sometimes, mingling briefly, but eventually fading away. In each new land, Homo sapiens adapted. Climate sculpted their body's skin tone, hair texture, eye shape. But beneath these differences, the genes were the same, refined over millions of years. He became the father of us all, the only human left on Earth, yet carrying within him the legacy of 1,000,000 lives. His presence blazed across the planet, a single species with countless faces, united by one thread, the story of how we came to be. That story began in the canopy with Pierola's leafy nest, passed through the hands of Tomai with his tools and his grief, marched with Sediba into the open savanna, and ran with Homo erectus beneath the wide sky. It is a tale of courage, of invention, of crossing thresholds that could never be uncrossed, and it is still being written. The fire they carried forward still burns, not just in our hearths, but in our minds, in our endless drive to know, to shape, to dream. We are the sum of all who came before, and the seeds of what will come next.